Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Astrology News Report, an alternate view of world events as seen through the lens of Vedic Astrology, presented by yours truly, Ron Berger. Today is January 11th, 2015, so let's take a look at the week that was and how the planets' positions in the zodiac matched up with the past week's events. The horror show that transpired in Paris last Wednesday does have a direct astrological connection. Murder and mayhem are the province of Mars, the planet of aggression, violence, and destruction. Mars had just recently entered Saturn's sign, Aquarius, the sign of social revolution. Meanwhile, in Mars's sign, Scorpio, is Saturn. One of Saturn's significations is that it is the planet of enforcement, of punishment. The two planets are mutually influencing each other by being in each other's signs, a combination that can have deadly consequences. Along with violence-prone Mars in Aquarius is Neptune, the planet of dreams, deception, delusion, and the irrational. Certainly what the terrorists did to the staff of Charlie Hebdo, the French satirical magazine, comes under the heading of deluded irrational violence, as if cartoons are something that have to be annihilated. Another factor to note is that Saturn, planet of punishment, was sending its third house special aspect to Mercury, the planet of the media. And then on Sunday, over 1 million people took to the streets in Paris in a national demonstration of freedom and tolerance, joined by every member of the French government, as well as some 40 world leaders. Allegedly, it was the biggest demonstration in French history. This is another manifestation of Mars, the planet of action, with Neptune, planet of idealism and sympathy, in the sign Aquarius, the sign of the humanitarian and social revolution. The horror of the Mars-Saturn energy pattern was not confined to France. In Nigeria last week, the Islamic extremist group Boko Haram committed another atrocity in the remote northeast corner of the country in and around Baga, where they burned whole villages to the ground and massacred the inhabitants. Reports are there that there are too many bodies to count. Estimates of the dead range as high as 2,000 people. Unfortunately, the Saturn-Mars arrangement continues for several more weeks until Mars leaves Aquarius on February 12th. This week, on January 14th, Mars and Saturn will be in an exact square aspect to each other, adding even more tension. Last week, Venus and Mercury were in position together in Capricorn, such that they were both receiving the exact third house aspect of Saturn. The planet of restriction and harsh reality was simultaneously afflicting the planet of value, Venus, and the planet of business transactions, Mercury. One result was the price of oil continued to tumble to the lowest it's been in 5 years, sinking below $50 per barrel. The currency of the European Union, the euro, also hit new lows in terms of its value in US dollars, at one point trading at $1.17, a rate not seen in 9 years. This all has ramifications in terms of global economies, the costs of things, and, of course, the financial markets. Checking in with recent events signified by the problematic Uranus Ketu combo transiting in the USA chart's 4th house, the sector of a country's chart that stands for the comfort of the people. Well, the comfort of the people in the United States was severely challenged last week. A major blast of Arctic air swept down from Canada, bringing temperatures in the Midwest and Northeast to double-digit sub-zero levels. Schools were closed, flights canceled, and traffic snarled. And there were some major freeway accidents when snow flurries were whipped to blizzard conditions by high winds. One pileup in Michigan involved nearly 200 cars and trucks and closed down an interstate highway for 2 days. Last Tuesday, on January 6th, the 114th Congress of the United States officially convened at noon. So, this being the birth of the new Congress, we can use the birth data to set up a Vedic astrology birth chart and read that chart for some results. But first off, let's take note of a bit of omenology here. The Capitol building is encased in scaffolding due to renovation of the ancient structure. But this also indicates that something new is taking place. A transformation of sorts. Anyway, back to the chart. So right away we see some planetary patterns that indicate problems coming. The combination of Uranus and Ketu is featured front and center in the ascendant. That means this Congress will be full of Uranian disruption and surprises. Add to that the idealism and dissatisfaction that Ketu represents, and Ketu's ever-present ghost of past karma. Uranus plus Ketu tends to produce crisis, which will be a recurrent theme for this Congress. Note, too, the exact opposition of the Moon and Mercury. The Moon is strong in its own sign, Cancer, meaning powerful emotions. Mercury, the planet of rational thinking, is exactly opposite the Moon. Also, Venus, planet of compromise and agreement, although giving assistance to Mercury, is also nearly exactly opposite the emotional Moon. The ruler of the ascendant, Jupiter, is retrograde. When Jupiter is retrograde, there's a bigger emphasis on beliefs and ideology. And note that Saturn, the planet of stubbornness, is positioned in the 9th house, which stands for beliefs, a further indication of attachment to ideology. So it doesn't look like there will be anything different from what the Congress has shown us in the past several years. Stubborn ideology, with a lot of emotional grandstanding, prevailing over any real efforts at rational compromise. With the Republicans all set to muscle their bills through and send them up to the White House for signature, or veto, how does President Obama's chart look? Well, here's something interesting. Mars has just entered Aquarius, which is Mr. Obama's second house of speech and values. Note that across the chart, on the other side, he has a bunch of planets in Leo, including his natal Mars. When Mars is transiting opposite your natal Mars, it is a signification of confrontation, being challenged by others, and a likely battle. Therefore, despite all the lip service about compromise, don't expect much of that in the coming weeks. Okay, that'll do it for this week's Review of the Week. You can keep up with daily astrological developments and contribute your own thoughts by following me on Twitter at Astro News Report.